Can I make a cocktail before we start broadcasting?
Well, just because we're broadcasting doesn't mean
Well,
anyone's watching.
If it's shaken, it'll be heard.
I'll make it stirred.
Yeah, do what you got to do.
Now you guys are making me have to edit this crap out.
Oh, are you recording?
Already. It's fine.
Why do you have to edit it out? It's 10 o'clock at night. Somebody can make a cocktail. We're adults.
Yeah. It's the After Hours Play the Kids episode.
Hey, welcome.
If you guys want to hear B-roll, go listen to the USL show. We talk that crap all the time. So, all right, you guys ready?
Yeah, I'm good.
Cool. Welcome, everyone. It's Play the Kids. We are sponsored by Roughneck Scarves, and we're part of the Beautiful Game Network. I am Kevin McCamish, and you can find me on Stumptown Footy, the USL show, and now also BGN Written. More about that later. Don't forget to subscribe via iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Our website is playthekids.com. Got a great episode today. Today, Josh is here. He's now with Protagonist Soccer. Did I get that right?
That's right.
Fantastic. So you're officially a sort of media person like I am sort of media person.
The official sort of media person that covers the NPSL Northwest, and then once they start covering the PDL Northwest, I'll cover that as well.
Fantastic. Now that's Protagonist Soccer, and we'll be sure to shout out any links and stuff, ways to follow them at the end of the show. Also with us, longtime listener, first-time caller, John McGuire. How's it going, John?
Oh, I'm doing great. How you fellas doing tonight?
Good. I appreciate you joining us, giving us some different perspective on what we'll talk about. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, looking forward to it.
So right off the bat, let's dive into some news. T2 still in seventh. Well, I don't know if they were still, but they're in seventh place. Should say still in the playoffs, and still having the best season despite the way the summer has currently worked out. 1.435 points per game, which is the best they've had ever so far up to this point. Best full season was 2016, which ended with a 1.33 points per game, and that was the season where T2 missed that final playoff spot on goal differential.
Ooh, that was the season that they won like 5 in a row to end the year.
Yep. Right? Yeah, the end of the season on a 5-game win streak. We're looking to seal 8th place, and Orange County had to score like 5 or 6 goals in their final match to beat them by goal differential. And in second half stoppage time, they put 2 or 3 away to make the goal total they needed, and it was like
rough.
Yeah, so that was previously the best season T2 had, and now so far still this season is.
Yeah,
but
it's nice to. I think, don't you think it's nice to sort of be fighting for your playoff position from above the line instead of fighting for your playoff position from below the line for a change? So, I mean, if anything, it's a slight increase in their fortunes, and I think it's been a little bit more of an enjoyable ride.
It has. I mean, it's still fraught with challenges and disappointment, but I think this season's been more good than bad. With T2 being in 7th place, the 8th place team in the final playoff spot is Swope Park Rangers, tied in points. We have them on the Games 1 tiebreaker. Behind both us and Swope Park is Colorado Springs and Fresno. They're in 9th and 10th place, respectively. 31 points on 25 games played for Colorado. 30 points, 24 games played for Fresno. T2 and Swope Park have only played 23 games, so we have some games in hand on those teams below us. Not that might mean anything, depending on how the rest of August goes. But T2 they're going to travel this weekend, and they've got 5 straight home games. Some of those matches are winnable. There is a home match. Well, first of all, there's the away match versus Swope Park. That's pretty huge. If they can get 3 points there, that'll really help their playoff chances. But that's in the future. So, biggest issue for T2, defense, kind of obvious. T2 had led the entire USL in shutouts with 8 on June 9th, and their last shutout was a 1-0 away win over Rio Grande Valley. Unfortunately, since then, 0 shutouts, and they've given up a staggering 23 goals in only 9 games.
What do you think that's down to? I know McIntosh kind of got lit up in this last game. Has that been a trend for him recently? Is he having some regression, or is it just the bulk of the defense that's letting him down?
It's actually all of the above. I've been trying to, the past week and a half, kind of dig through rewatching games, seeing how the goals are created, and it's kind of like everything that's bad is going bad at the same time. 23 goals in 9 games, that's 2.5 goals against per game, over 2.5 goals by average. And that's multiple games where T2 have had 4 against them. So silly mistakes, individual errors. The guys are ball watching, not tracking runners. It's kind of all manner of things. McIntosh is a really solid keeper. I don't know if maybe he's losing some confidence, or if he's losing some confidence in the back line. Strangely enough, and it's really funny, I can't find Roy Miller at fault for a lot of this stuff, but when he's been playing with T2, getting healthy, recovering from his Achilles rupture he had near the end of the season last season. Which is for, like we said this, Josh, last episode, it's huge for him at his age to recover that fast and be able to be playing full 90 minutes out there. But it's I don't know if he's disrupting the chemistry of what, because again, up to that point in June, T2 had one of the best defenses, second best defense in the league. I don't want to take credit for Pittsburgh, but.
And at what point did Miller start to be involved in the matches? Was it right around that same time?
Mid-June, he was first starting to see his appearance. So some time, like 45 minutes and stuff.
So one of the things we talked about the last couple of years was that chemistry that you just mentioned, and how important it is maybe for these players to be consistent and sort of build that trust with each other. I mean, we all respect and view Miller as an absolute professional and are in awe of his recovery, but I think maybe you're onto something that, maybe he's just kind of thrown a little kink in the works back there. And what's more important, getting Miller recovered or getting T2 in the playoffs? I'm not, from the organization's perspective.
Yeah, I know. I mean, just speaking on the most recent game, and I know we'll get to it, but that first goal that we gave up, that was Miller and Bill Tuiloma, who couldn't manage to mark the number 9. And these are 2 relatively seasoned pros going up against a pretty young guy. Those sort of kind of silly mistakes are tough to watch, especially at home, obviously. And with Miller, he's an older player. He's coming back from obviously a very large injury, so there's a little bit of leeway there. But you'd think between the 2 of them, they could establish something a little more solid, and it'd be good to see those things tighten up pretty quickly here.
Yeah,
exactly. And the other thing too, like you mentioned, Tuiloma getting minutes. It's okay to get some of these first team guys minutes, but you do have to kind of wonder, like, at what cost, because Miller's not a bad defender. He's just not. He is a veteran. He's experienced, a very professional player. He's a good defender. What just to clarify, what I'm trying to get at is that it's not him being bad. It's just him being there, or right. Tuiloma being there. They're not bad. It's that they just don't have any chemistry with each other. They don't have time or experience playing with each other, and that doesn't help when you're going up against some of these other teams, independent sides like Phoenix Rising, Orange County, who are there to compete. And it's like some of these guys, their jobs are on the line. They're not competing for a first team contract. They're competing to keep playing and to win something in USL. Not that T2 is not being competitive, but it's just there's a different mentality with some of these other teams than there is with T2. Everything is significantly better this season with T2. The coach is doing all the right things, saying all the right things. The mentality, I think, is better overall, but it's just different between a 2 side and an independent side.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you got to think about the rhythm of the week, right? I mean, if and I'm not sure how practice goes, but I would imagine Tuoloma at least, and very possibly Miller are spending most of their days during the week practicing with the first team, right? And even if they have chemistry between the two of them, they don't necessarily have chemistry with the rest of, the the D mids and the outside backs with T2. Obviously, Farfan played this most recent game, so maybe they are practicing together. But I would imagine McIntosh isn't there. There's got to be a little bit of a disconnect in that regard. So even though there's upside to getting them game time, to keep them sharp, from a team standpoint, obviously the big timbers come before the little trees, right? So you get it organizationally, but at the same time, it does make it tough on T2.
Yeah.
Well, the interesting thing about that is I think training's built differently this year with a different head coach. I know in the past, T2 and first team trainings were very separate. But like I'll do, I don't know, completely losing the word, but I want to remind everybody, go back 2 episodes. It's a short episode, but listen to my interview with Josh Phillips. And one of the questions was like, how is the training kind of organized with both the first team, second team? Do you guys train with each other at the same time? Do you do things separately? And I got the sense that there's a lot more working together with all the players within the organization this season than there has been in years past. And I think so that probably helps things a little bit, but even then it's still, you got to have time and repetition with the players, especially in a game environment. And it takes games to build that. And a lot of these guys just don't have that outright time with each other yet. So,
yeah,
it's the defense is just the one blemish. I think just the one kind of bad thing we've had this summer to really an otherwise pretty successful season. And to flip that, the biggest positive for T2 is obviously the attack. They're still 5th in the league with goals scored. Of course, we dropped near the bottom in goals against, but we already discussed that. After having 2 pretty miserable attacking seasons, because Nico Brett, now with the Pittsburgh Riverhounds, led T2 with 7 goals in 2016, just 7. Victor Arboleda led the team with 4. Only 4 goals, was our top goal scorer in 2017. Oof. So 11 goals total, and Foster Langsdorff already has 10 this season. First T2 player since Carlton Bellemare had 13 in 2015. First player to get double-digit goals.
Well, yeah, you have to remember that Carlton Bellemare was freaking awesome, and he would score a goal on almost any night for T2.
He's still awesome. He's finding success with Kansas City.
I'm going to say, does this mean they're going to trade Langsdorff away for a pizza and some gam to Sporting?
If you go back and look at this previous week in USL, it's like a who's who of who used to play for the Timbers on the score sheet. Nico Brett has 11 goals, which is 2nd overall in the entire league for the Golden Boot. Foster Langsdorff tied in 3rd with 10. Tied with other players, I should say, in 3rd place at 10. Nico, I think, has 2 other gentlemen he's tied with at 11. Then there's 2 guys, Atuala Guerrera with Charleston, and of course, someone who had just scored against us recently, Thomas Enevoldsen with Orange County. Those both lead the league, 12 goals each. And Foster could have been up there with 12 goals. He missed 2 penalty kick attempts against Phoenix Rising, which we'll get to.
Those were good saves, though, and I know we'll get to it, but those were quality saves.
Yes, and and to be clear, they were saved. But first, I like to think that if he had put those away, he'd be tied for the Golden Boot lead. So, is it possible Foster can win the Golden Boot? Yes. Will it happen? I don't know.
Remains to be seen.
Remains to be seen. But we have someone who could potentially win the Golden Boot, and that is something.
That is nice.
Right? I know a big thing that I think almost everybody on Twitter talks about is, Foster, Langsdorf versus Jeremy Ebobisse. Who needs to be playing with the first team? Are either or both of them better than Dairon Asprilla? Why is Lucas Milano coming back? What's going on? Up is down, green is blue.
Yeah.
All kinds of stuff. We traded Vitas to DC for some reason.
Many questions.
So many questions. But the one that we'll focus on, dealing primarily with T2, who is better, Foster versus Jeremy? I'm going to say Foster, and I have some stats to back that up. But what are your guys' thoughts, Foster or Jeremy?
I mean, based on statistics, I'm team Foster right now. But that doesn't discount Jeremy as a human being. He's a marvelous person, but stats are stats.
John?
I think it's an interesting comparison. I think they're very different players, right? I think Ebobisse has the size and physicality to be a little bit more of an impact player broadly for the team, as opposed to just purely as a goal scorer. And I think Langsdorf has that kind of poacher's sense, that ability to put balls on goal, that, the kind of the Wondolowski sort of role.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's a lot of people have comparing Foster to a Chris Wondolowski type,
right?
Which, you got to ask yourself, does that play into what Gio wants to achieve with the first team? Does maybe Jeremy's style of play fit more in with what he wants to do? Problem is, nobody really knows, because Asprilla is the second on the striker chart, and the question's kind of a moot point, because unless Armenteros or Asprilla go down for any significant amount of time, I don't think we're going to find out via a lineup selection how they feel versus, the coaching staff feels versus Foster or Jeremy, who might be in the quote-unquote third place.
Yeah, no, that's true. And I think the important thing to look at is kind of their, not just their finishing rates, but I think you had some stats in the show notes, and I might be jumping the gun a little, but from a worldwide football perspective, a typical finishing rate is that you put about a third of your total shots on goal, and about a third of the total shots on goal end up as goals. So if you're doing better than that, you're doing well, and if you're not doing better than that, you're not doing well. Obviously, expected goals, we can talk about that and how luck comes into play. But I think there's a pretty stark difference from a finishing standpoint between Foster Langsdorf and Jeremy Ebobisse. And Foster's far out competing Jeremy in the regard of how many shots they're putting on target, and then how many of those shots on target are actually hitting the back of the net.
Yeah, exactly. And I think you're absolutely right on the average shots, converting shots into shots on target and shots on target onto goals in the back of the net. I think that sounds pretty familiar. With stuff like that, I mean, expected goals, there's a huge swath of new, not new, but the soccer statistics that are doing really well to kind of, determine the quality of a shot based on where it's taken, and a bunch of other factors. We're not going to get into that. We're going to go just super basic stats that are pretty meaningless, I think, overall, but at least still show a little slice of the picture. Foster Langsdorf, 34 total shots, 23 of them on target this season so far, 10 goals. So,
I mean, I just want to point out that the shots on target to the shots ratio is insane. That's double. Nobody is expected to put 2/3 of their total shots on target. And I don't know, that comes down to the team shape and positioning and just the quality of shots that the team is setting up Langsdorf for, as opposed to Ebobisse. But to put 2/3 of your total shots on goal is an absolutely absurd number. And I think that it speaks to Langsdorf's kind of ability to finish independent of everything else. It's such an outlier statistic.
As well as being able to clean up stuff in the box. 9 of his 10 goals are from inside the box. Also, to kind of give an idea of where his goals are coming from. So goals to shots total, he's got a 29.4% conversion rate. If we go goals to shots on target, it jumps to a kind of an impressive 43.4% conversion rate, which is a 131.9 minutes per goal, which is not too shabby for a rookie at this level, I think.
Yeah. I think more important than the goals per minute or the minutes per goal is those conversion rates. Like that indicates to me that Foster is either better than the keepers he's facing or he's putting himself in better positions than the defenders he's around.
That was my thought. He's just getting in the right places. He's if he's finishing from inside the box and he's got a high rate, he's just where he needs to be.
And to compare to Jeremy, who, like we said, is a different type of player, Jeremy's got 3 goals this season. 2 of them are from outside the box. 1 is from inside. So while he has a very similar, his conversion rate from shots on target to goals is 37.5%. So it's less, but it's close. Where he really differs is his shots taken to goals at a unfortunate 13.6 conversion rate. So 22 shots, 8 of them on target, only 3 goals. And it's a not flattering 351 minutes per goal. But that does not discount, what Jeremy still brings as a player. As you had said, John, his physicality. He's in his 2nd season, I believe. So, he's the one player between the 2 that actually has MLS minutes, some MLS experience, albeit 317 minutes. He's shown very well with those minutes.
It's worth pointing out that he leads the MLS in goals per 90, by the way.
Since last season?
No, maybe last season included, but in 2018, certainly. He got like an 11-minute stint earlier this year or something like that.
And scored a goal.
In Open Cup, yeah.
But see, if it's Open Cup, it doesn't count. It's not part of the league. So that won't actually count to MLS, to be fair.
Hold on, let me double-check with American Soccer Analysis on this. Please continue.
We will. So that's just a quick thing. Like I said, attack is doing pretty well. Foster, I'm siding with him. I really think he's going to show well for the Timbers next season. I wouldn't expect Foster or Jeremy to see any time with the first team this year, barring any significant injuries to probably 2 or 3 different people, especially with Lucas Milano on his way back in. And we'll probably see Lucas before the end of the month's out, I would assume, given what I'm hearing.
You suppose that in that transition time back into the organization, we'll see him playing with T2?
It's entirely possible. The nice thing is they're not shy about using T2 to get people back game fit. So, we've seen Roy Miller, we've seen David Guzman, Vitas has certainly had lots of time. Jack Barmby's kind of having a little USL level renaissance himself. So certainly it is a possibility we would see Lucas Milano getting some time with T2. Hopefully he does well and gets a couple goals before they start using him for the first team. But we'll see.
Yeah.
2 other players I want to talk about, Renzo Zambrano. Midfield's kind of improved a bit over the last few games. When T2 were losing 5 of their 6 before these most recent 3, midfield was not doing too well. Earlier in the season, when T2 was doing very well, the defense was doing very well. I think the midfield was also pretty solid. I was very impressed with Renzo and how he was pairing at the time with Eric Williamson. Renzo being, the defensive player, Eric Williamson going more box to box. Now it's kind of Renzo and Andre Lewis are pairing together. It's kind of a double pivot more than it was in the first third of the season. And T2 are beginning to find success in the midfield again. But the key point here, obviously, is that, it's not Williamson or Lewis. The key player in all of this is Renzo Zambrano. When he does well, it seems to be that T2 do well. And I don't have the stats up in front of me, but I know that Renzo Zambrano is like 5th, 6th, or 8th in the league overall for total completed passes. So a lot of what T2 does goes through Renzo from playing out of the back, which is
he would be 7th overall in passes completed.
And I said 5, 6, and 8, didn't I? He's like I was like 5th, 6th, or 8th. Couldn't possibly be 7th.
No, definitely not that
Except
one.
for the one number I missed. But yeah, so just a quick shout out to Renzo. He's a good midfield player. And it's not just the Foster and Marvin Loria show. There are some other good players out there doing good things. Speaking of the Foster and Marvin show, Marvin Loria, winger of the future. His goal versus Orange County, just in case people didn't see it, was number 5 on SportsCenter's top 10 the day he scored against Orange County.
Oh, so pretty.
So go and check that out because it's worth it. What are your guys' thoughts on Marvin Loria? Winger of the future or a complete bust?
Is there an in-between option?
There's no
in between.
He's fabulous to watch. I mean, it's the way he skips past players, and it's clearly more than just pace, but his pace definitely helps. You can see that he has the touch and the kind of the mindfulness of where defenders are in his path to sort of get around them left or right, and kind of go on his mazy run, and then sort of score a goal going against the direction of his run was just amazing. And that's not the first time he's made really great runs like that, and he's more than just a dribbler too. He's been pretty fun to watch.
And I think the important point about that one run in particular, the SportsCenter top 5 or whatever run, was that he had a lovely chip over the keeper, so composed on the finish. He beat, I think, 3 or 4 players on the way to doing that, and there were a few lucky touches in there. But the fact that once he got into the 18, he was one-on-one with the keeper. He was so calm, composed, smooth. Seeing that was, I think, a stark contrast to a player like Arboleda, which has gotten a lot of hype in the past, where he's obviously super speedy, has the ability to beat players, but sometimes the finishing was lacking a little, and so. To see Loria have the composure to finish that clinically, I thought was very encouraging.
He's definitely the next player behind Foster, who I think is going to be ready to make that jump to the first team much sooner rather than later. Foster, obviously a homegrown player on the first team contract already, which is why I peg him for first, because, even though I'm like, it's highly unlikely you will see Foster or Jeremy get MLS minutes, they are on first team contracts, and something could happen. They could do well in training. Injuries could happen. They could see time there. With Marvin Loria being on a T2 contract, though, that's far more unlikely for him. But only this season. I really think he's going to probably earn a first team contract in the offseason, particularly if he keeps up what he's been doing pretty much all season since we've seen him. 25 shots, 12 on target, 4 goals. Which is great for a winger. That's what he's playing as. He's been playing as a pretty true winger. It really feels like, I think overall, the attack kind of has settled. Cameron's kind of settled on having Barmby opposite Loria on the wings, with Eric Williamson playing as an attacking mid, feeding Langsdorff centrally. And those 4 players, they've been generating some goals. 4 against LA2, 2 against Orange County. They obviously could have done better against Phoenix, but Phoenix is, I think, still the second best team in the West. So, I don't want to be too harsh on them for not getting any goals or a win against Phoenix there.
Yeah. Before we jump ahead to the glorious win over LA2, I do want to point out 2 things. One, Loria's 12 shots out of 25 on target that's a fantastic rate. If we can have people at any level in the Timbers, T1, T2, the under 23s, who are putting half of their shots on target against, and I know I'm harping on this, like a kind of a global average of being a third of their shots being on target. That's fantastic. I mean, that's just quality finishing as a generalization. And the second point is that I don't know why Jack Barmby plays at all anymore. What is going on? Can we honestly talk about this for just 2 minutes?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Because I had mentioned earlier he's having himself a little bit of a renaissance, but by no means does that mean he should be going back to the first team.
Right. Yeah. No. He's what, 26 now, 25, something like that. He's on the first team.
I don't think he's that old.
Okay, maybe he's 24, but
24, 25.
He's certainly not. He's not showing himself as a diamond in the rough or anything like that. His time with Team T2 seems to be just to fill in time with T2, which is fine. You know, he's adequate at the T2 level. But at the same time, I often wonder, could that time be better spent on building somebody younger, somebody with more upside? You know, does he even really want to be there? I mean, I watch the guy sometimes and I wonder if he really has the bite. You know, does he want to be playing at the USL level?
Well, I'm 100% with you on that one. And it's not even like his mentality. I have no idea what he's thinking when he's out there. But what's been more obvious to me this season is that the USL is his level. He's not an MLS caliber player. He could be a average to above average player at the USL level. That so far is what I see as his ceiling, and that's a waste of a first team contract.
That's actually a really interesting point, and it brings back to a comment you had made earlier, which I think is important to keep in mind. But you know, you were talking about how the goal scoring charts this weekend were lit up by ex-Timbers 2 players, and that, you know, I think we've been very critical of the team to kind of cut players who we see as promising, who are showing a little bit at the USL level, but you know, who are a couple years on now and are good USL players, but maybe not great USL players. And it really takes great USL players to become good USL players, especially once you get up to the age of like 24, 25. You know, there might be an exception or two in there, but for the most part, as much as I love seeing Nico Brett, I don't think he's ever going to make an impact in MLS, right? He might be on 11 goals this year, but we were probably right to cut him at the time.
Yeah.
You know, Carlton Belmar, loved the guy. Had so much fun watching him play. But, you know, do we actually think he's going to have an MLS career? Probably not, you know, and it's tough.
And he's had opportunities to break into Kansas City's first team. I mean, he's on a first team contract, but you know, when they would have been desperate for some striking,
and they are desperate for,
and they are
striking.
Even now still desperate for a striker and even a backup striker. He's not been able to break in that. So, you know, as much as he was, I mean, he's fantastic at USL. He's the type of player at this level where, you know, if you let him play a full season at USL at full clip, he could probably outscore some entire USL teams.
Right.
But right now, it does not appear to be translating to the MLS level.
Yeah.
And some of these players, we don't know if that's going to work.
And actually, I think it's a really interesting thing from like, as a primarily, and this is me, just my own personal bias, as a primarily U.S. soccer consumer, right? I'm aware of and I watch high-level international soccer, but I don't watch the championship or anything like that, right? I'm adjusting to the idea that there's just players that are USL good. They might be USL great even, but they're not MLS players. And coming to that realization, coming to grips with that, you know, there's just players they're going to have a decent career, maybe 6 or 8, maybe even 10 years of playing at the USL level and making, you know, not great wages, but decent wages for playing the sport they love. And seeing that as kind of the new normal, I think is really interesting to come to grips with. And it's something that I've been, you know, thinking about more recently, as, hey, this is just what happens. You know, some players are just, that's their level. They're USL quality players.
There's a couple points I wanted to make on that. Is one of the things we've been talking about for the last couple of years is whereas not every player is destined to be a first team MLS player, in order for your USL side to find some modicum of success, you can't keep unloading your experienced players and keep digging around for diamonds in the rough. You've got to pick 2 or 3 projects and surround them with experienced players that can accept their USL role and know that that is their lot in U.S. soccer, and that their time competing for an MLS spot is sort of done and dusted, and that they're just there to be the experienced USL veteran. And I think when we look at someone like Nico Brett, he, we don't know. We weren't in the locker room. He's so young. He doesn't strike me as willing to accept that he's not good enough for MLS. So off he goes to go fight somewhere else for his place. So this, the same could be said for Carlton Belmar. He wasn't quite experienced enough to just settle in on the concept that he's just going to be, kind of an assistant to somebody else getting, the next step up. But from the underside of that, I've spent the last year and a half, 2 seasons, surrounded by, second division, third division collegiate players who look at their role in Division 4 soccer as they're grasping at any opportunity to play, and so hopeful that they might catch the eye of a USL side. And you've got players that played in the Timbers under 23s last year who had a really successful year that got drafted into the USL and are just absolutely chuffed. They know that's their level, and you follow them in social media, and they're not pining and whining about not getting to MLS. They're completely content with their USL role. So it's, there is a stratification in soccer. And I think that, as you say, the more we pull back the curtains and we sort of look at the bigger picture of, players within those the stratification of soccer, you'll see some people settle into their roles, and some people appreciate where they end up, and some people are fighters.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, I think, and then referencing Kevin's earlier comment, the Josh Phillips interview is a great example of that, right? Like, this is a guy who's well into his USL career. He's solid. He's a veteran, and he accepts his role as somebody who's there to help the team game to game, but more importantly, he's there to help the team by being a role model and a leader and showing guys how to be pros, that even if you don't make it to MLS, you can still be a pro day to day, and rock practice and put in a hard shift and make a decent living. Mm-hmm. And I think that's really good, actually. And I think that's something that's positive for T2 to have. So hopefully Barmby, bringing it back to the original statement that kicked this all off, hopefully Barmby is one of those guys, who realizes that this is his level, and he's there to do a job, and he works hard and he plays well.
Yeah, I would have no questions whatsoever about everyone's mentality at all levels in the organization. I think this season, everybody's buying into what Gio and the whole staff want to do. Mm-hmm. So regardless of, whether their time comes with T2 or whether it comes with the first team or just practice or bench, whatever, I'm pretty sure everybody's happy with what they're doing. And certainly I think a big part of the reason, why we're seeing some of this success is it just that everyone's happy, everyone's competing with each other, pushing each other as everybody wants to fight for minutes. So, I think T2 and the first team, they're doing well. T2 obviously struggling a bit, but let me quickly run through LA2 and Orange County results, and then because I completely missed the Phoenix Rising game due to the time change, I'll let John run with that one. So
sounds good.
Yeah, just to save some minutes, let me go through these real quick. T2 away to LA2, get the win 4-3. It's another goal fest between the sides. Earlier this season at home, T2 beat LA2 7-3 in one of the highest scoring games in USL so far this season. Again, this time around, even down there, neither of the teams obviously showering themselves in defensive glory. Thus, kind of seems like they can just score almost at will against each other. But T2 came out on top again. Langsdorff likes LA2. 5 of his 10 goals have been against LA2. A hat trick at home and a brace in this match. And it was goals from start to finish. LA scoring in the first minute. Ethan Zubak Dylan in the 11th minute, Lopez in the 78th, T2 answering with all of those. Jeremy scoring in the 3rd minute, Williamson in the 23rd, and then Langsdorff with his brace in the 54th and 63rd minute. So goals aplenty all the way across there.
What a goal fest. So much fun to watch.
The one where we beat him 7-3 is also is lots of fun to watch, because when you score 3 goals in stoppage time, that's always fun to watch. Next game, T2 still out on the road. They drop points to Orange County. It's a 2-2 draw, missed opportunity. T2 go up 2-0 at the break, but could not hold back a resurgent Orange County side. 4 points out of 6 for a road trip is not shabby at all. But T2 did have the opportunity to bring all 6 back. Unfortunately, didn't work out. As we mentioned earlier, Marvin Loria's goal made the Sports Center top 10. He generally looked pretty amazing for long stretches of that game. Langsdorff getting an assist on Barmby's goal, but was unable to kind of pad his stat sheet there. T2 goals from Loria in the 13th minute, Barmby in the 31st minute. From the 32nd minute on, it was pretty much all Orange County. T2 taking advantage of their rough start, going up 2-0, and then just spending the rest of the game kind of holding back Orange County. Couldn't hold them back enough to get 3 points, though. Quinn scoring in the 62nd minute, and then Ene Voldsen, I think, tied for the Golden Boot lead. Scores in the 84th minute, getting Orange County a point at home. Following that game up, the last one to talk about is T2 losing at home against Phoenix Rising 4-1. As I mentioned, I missed this game due to the time change. It was scheduled for 2 p.m. I knew it got changed. I just thought it got moved later, not earlier. So as I was prepping to leave my house about 4 o'clock, I was like, wait, the game's started. It was over when? So unfortunately, that's completely my fault. Haven't had the opportunity to watch it yet, but John, you were there at the game. So
yep.
Want to mention everybody, Tomas Kanechi makes his debut, created 3 chances, played 61 minutes in this match. We've also, of course, talked about the missed PKs from Foster. But give us your thoughts on this one.
Okay, so first of all, on the time change, they moved it up to noon from 2 p.m., which I think was a really smart move. It was a hot day in Portland on Sunday. Everybody knows that. And starting at noon, it was still relatively cool. I think it was in the low 70s. We all know about the solar loading, that happens on the turf field when the sun shines. It gets about 20 degrees, maybe 30 degrees hotter on the field than it is ambient air temperature. And there were hydration breaks in this USL game at the 30th and like the 70th minute, roughly, I think, which were necessary and appropriate. The things that I keyed on, or that I was watching, sitting in the north end, I was really interested in seeing Roy Miller and Bill Tuoloma. We've already talked about them. They didn't cover themselves in glory, so we don't need to rehash that. I wanted to watch Abobasi because he got the start. He actually, I think, played really well. He was connecting well with the midfield, put some strong shots on target. But most importantly, we've got the new signing, Thomas Konechny. This little Argentine, somebody I was texting with in one of my group chats said, "Oh, I thought that was Marco Farfan's little brother." he looks young. He's not a large man, but I tell you what, he is skilled, and I have to say that it was fun to watch him play. He was beating Phoenix Rising's midfield all day long. Like, seriously, smoking 2, 3, 4 players at a time. Unfortunately, that was primarily lateral moves. He would beat a player, pick his head up, look for a pass. Didn't see one. Beat a player, pick his head up, look for a pass. Beat a player. You sense the pattern. There wasn't a lot of through balls on for him. It looked like he wanted more movement out of the forward line, or at least from the other attacking midfielders to try and connect. And I think he was, although he didn't appear frustrated, that wasn't his body language at all. From watching, it seemed like he needed somebody to connect with. And so from my perspective, the potential to see him with first-team players like Blanco, Valeri, and Armenteros, even Chara, who are very quick with their movement and interchange in the midfield and in the attacking midfield, I think is really potentially positive. Obviously, he's adjusting to a lot of things, right? He's fresh from Argentina. I'm sure that he's adjusting to life and everything here in Portland. But to see him get an hour of playing time and look really crisp on the ball, and beat players with such regularity was very encouraging for me. I think he definitely has a spot in the first team. If not this year as a substitute role, then certainly next year. I mean, I think he's got the tools to be there. The other thing that was really interesting was the lone T2 goal that we saw. You mentioned that Foster Langsdorff had 2 PKs in this game. Yep. He missed them both. I shouldn't say missed. Both goals or both PKs were saved.
Yeah.
He went to the same side on both goals, down and to the shooter's left, the keeper's right. They're both hard shots and really well saved by the Phoenix goalkeeper. Not impossible to save, but they were potential goals, and they were well saved. The first one was a rebound that came off just to the right-hand side, and Marco Farfan was there to put away his first goal in the USL. Or is it his first goal in the USL or the first goal in his USL this year? Do you know
it's
that?
It's definitely the first goal this year. I don't have any stats off the top of my head. Like, I don't have anything open.
I think it's his first goal total. I mean, he's a left back, right? He's not scoring a ton. So what was really interesting about this was he started, instead of standing on the top of the 18-yard box like everybody else, he was on the far left side of the 18, and he was probably 5 or 6 yards back from the 18-yard line. And he started a run-up when Foster started his run-up to take the actual PK. So he was kind of in cadence with Foster running up to the ball. And so when Foster took the shot, was in full stride when the shot was taken. And he came from a wide angle, and even though he was at a wide angle, because he was at full stride already, he was able to beat everybody else who was standing at the top of the 18 to that rebound and put it away. I'm pretty sure he went 5-hole on the keeper on that one too. So it was a really nice finish. But it was a really smart, really intelligent move to start 5 yards back from the 18 so that he had the momentum and speed going in to be able to break those lines and make sure that he was the fastest to any rebounds that appear on that first PK from Foster.
Yeah. Confirmed that was defender Marco Farfan's first professional goal ever. So that is definitely congrats to him. And yeah, it's really funny because I think about that and I'm like, it makes so much sense that he would do that or literally anybody would be doing that and make
right.
It seems so smart, like so smart. It's like, why doesn't everybody do that, or somebody not always do that? So it's great. I'm glad he got that, did that, and got the goal.
Yeah. It really makes me wonder if that's something that he picked up from youth training. I mean, I don't watch. Obviously, we don't see a ton of PKs at the MLS level, and I think we're all primarily Timbers watchers before T2 watchers, but. Yeah. That's not something you see a ton, I think, in world football. And it was a really interesting thing to pick out. It was very obvious in the stadium to see, and then on the highlights, you can actually see, if you go back and watch the USL highlights that are on YouTube, in the first shot of the PK, there's kind of a wide angle, and you can see just the top third of Marco's body as Langsdorff's running up to take the PK, and you can see Marco take off and start his run. And I don't know. I just thought it was really smart. Hopefully it's something that the team is teaching and is going to be applied more broadly. But if it's something that he picked up at the youth level or something that he just thought up on his own, more credit to him. I mean, obviously, I'm a huge Marco Farfan guy. I'm sure you've seen me big up him on Twitter.
Say it. You're a Farfan fan.
I'm a Farfan fan. That's my.
Don't say you're a Farfan guy. You're a Farfan fan.
I am a Farfan fan.
And we need fans of Farfan made out for Farfan fans to fan themselves at the game.
Especially without Vitas in the lineup anymore. I mean, I think we're all going to miss Vitas, but I think we all recognize the potential that Marco has. He's played in the MLS All-Star homegrown game now, and He's a U20 international. He's probably going to be U23 international. He's a quality left back.
Yeah, the nice thing is you see Marco Farfan, Foster Langsdorff, two true homegrown players. Foster from Vancouver, Washington, Marco from Portland, Oregon.
I think he's from Gresham technically, but yeah.
Just give me this. Give me this one thing. He's from
Portland.
He's from Oregon. He's from Oregon.
The greater Portland area.
Yeah. Either way, it's two actual homegrown players, and they're both showing that I think they can do a job in MLS for this team.
Mm-hmm.
The academy was, started 2 or more years later than it should have, but 5 years in, we are starting to see the progress of that, and we know there are more players back that can do the same job or better than these two guys as they continue to develop some good academy depth. So it's one of those things like it's great to see, not to toot our own horn, but look what happens when you play the kids, right?
Right. Play those kids.
Best podcast name ever.
Pretty much.
And it's funny because when Merritt Paulson tweets out, that play the kids mantra, it's like he's not really referring to us.
We like
to think so, but no, he's not. None of them are because we're not that mainstream. But it just kind of gives you that idea. It's like, yeah, it's a great podcast name. Now,
I don't know, man. I want the TGI PTK hashtag to go international.
Oh, just wait. I'm sure it will. So anyway, so that's Phoenix Rising. Thank you, John. So like we said, T2's lone goal came from Farfan, his first professional goal in the 72nd minute. Unfortunately, T2 were down 2 goals already. Cortez getting a brace in the 8th and scoring again in the 82nd minute. Fernandez in the 63rd. Asante, rounding it all out in the 89th minute. Kind of a matter of a top 2 team in the West. They had been struggling, but they get their expected win. They're going to be happy that they have bounced back, getting 3 road points after suffering a defeat to the Monarchs. So, it kind of helps Phoenix secure 2nd place. I predicted on the USL show it would be a 4-2 loss. I was really close. Had that 97th minute PK that Langsdorff put away not been saved, would have been a perfect prediction. Not that helps me feel better about the game at all. Just kind of expecting it. But anyway, that's T2. Josh, give us a rundown on 4th division since the season's over. Yeah. And unfortunately you missed last week because of computer trouble. So glad all that's fixed.
Yeah, I just wanted to note is Phoenix Rising where Drogba plays? Is that right?
Yes, he is the player, coach, owner type deal.
Player owner, I think.
He was back in training. He was back in training just in time for them to build up to the playoffs. So they're only getting stronger. I just thought I'd mention that I saw that. The PDL Northwest Division, the Portland Timbers under-23s who play in Salem started the year off with a really great win over Kitsap Pumas. I believe we hearken all the way back to spring. It was a 5-0 win in the first round of the U.S. Open Cup. They were the PDL champions from the year before, and Kitsap was the NPSL champions from 2017 as well. And though that same team finished dead last in 2018 in the Northwest Division with 3 wins and only 11 points on the season. It was a dramatic change from the year before, where they finished top of the division and looked like nobody could beat them. Lane United, a team that's in Springfield, Eugene area, finished in 3rd place, did not make the playoffs. Sounders FC under-23s finished 2nd place and did get into the playoffs. I stopped watching the conference at that point, so I have no idea how well.
As you should.
Yep, I don't care. Just to take kind of a closer look for the Timbers under 23s, if there was a couple players that we want to keep our eye on for next year, they may be there, they may not. We talk about Benji Michelle he plays for the University of Portland Pilots. He'll be going into his junior year at the University of Portland. He had 5 goals in 333 minutes. And Abdu Haji had 2 goals in 505 minutes. And Blake Bodley, who was a T2 player last year, had only 2 goals in 2 games played. And I don't know if the team was ravaged by injuries or what could have caused such a dramatic change. They seem to have a lot of the same players. Only 2 or 3 players either graduated from their respective colleges or were drafted into USL. But under 23s, dramatic change and a big letdown from the year before. As I said, one of the players to keep an eye on was Benji Michelle from the University of Portland Pilots. And the Pilots start their season off this August 12th at home with an exhibition game against Corbin. And their regular season starts against Sacramento State in Portland at Merlot on Friday, August 24th at 5:30. If you're interested in watching the Portland Pilots.
Nice.
Let's see. NPSL soccer, my baby, really.
Yeah.
Again, just a really dramatic difference from the year before. Pumas finished first place last year. They finished third place this year and decided that they not only were upset that they didn't make the playoffs, but they no longer want to play soccer. Citing not enough fans through the turnstile as the reason to shutter up the organization.
I'm going to take my ball and go home.
They took their ball and went home. They didn't want to play anymore. Coach Liviu Bird, who I think was associated with the Sounders Youth Academy for a while, was the head coach there at Kitsap. He had some pretty sour words to say in an interview, which you may see written up for Protagonist Soccer here in the near future. FCMP, the local Portland team, finished in second place and went to the playoffs. Their first round in the playoffs was away to Spokane. Now, Spokane finished in first place in the Northwest Conference. They had 7 wins, 5 draws, 0 losses, and they were basically invincible throughout the entire season. They opened up their playoffs against FCMP and lost 1-2 at home.
Wow. An unbeaten season, and they lost in the first round of the playoffs. That's rough.
Yeah. And so, Football Club Malouse Portland were ranked 32nd out of, I think, something like 190 teams, some ridiculous amount of clubs that are in the total NPSL.
Yeah.
32nd ranked FCMP, then went on to play El Farolito down in the Bay Area, picked up a win down there. They shut him out 2-0 with goals by Luis Galliano and Reed McKenna, who contributed not only this year but last year. And then they had a really interesting match where they went down to Orange County FC, who I think they might have some sort of organizational relationship to the USL side. And Fred Braun, former Timber, had 2 goals. Luis Galliano had a goal. Reed McKenna had a goal. Alex White had a goal. And Christian Tyron had a goal in a 6-4 shootout win in the quarterfinals. And that sent them all the way into the semifinals of the NPSL.
Whoa. And this is PDX FC's main rival here in Portland. It's making this deep run.
Yep, exactly. In the year that I most wanted, was trying to bring as much attention as I could onto PDX FC, was the year their rival, who doesn't really seek attention. They're not social media hounds. They don't post anything. They don't sell stickers and badges and shirts and T-shirts. They just show up and they win. This is the 3rd year in a row that this organization has finished second place in their respective conference. That first year, Kevin covered them as Spartans FC of Portland.
Yep.
And then last year they finished
second.
second, and they lost in the first round to Kitsap. And this year they finished second, and they won in the first round away to Spokane. And they went all the way out to New Jersey to play FC Motown in the semifinals of the NPSL championships. And
wait a second, FC Motown is in New Jersey and not Detroit?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a disappointing
what?
And they traveled out to New Jersey, and they were tied up at ones. They went into extra time, no goals. They went into the second period of extra time. They went into added on time. They were in the 120th plus minute, and Motown put in a goal and sent Portland packing. And that was that.
That's a hell of a run for local soccer.
It is. And there's some really interesting names associated with that Portland team. You might remember Freddie Braun, former Timber. He had 6 goals on the season and was came in second to a player up in Spokane for Golden Boot for the conference. Stephen Evans, former Timber, and Nick Evans, his younger brother. Now, Nick and Stephen actually played for PDXFC last year, but they were upset with maybe not getting enough time, so they decided to jump ship. They went over to the other team in town, and they helped them win a slot in the U.S. Open Cup. So we'll see FCMP in the Open Cup first round next year, and I believe they're going to play against Calgary, who won the PDL on the Timbers under 23 side of the Division 4 in Oregon soccer. And
well, Calgary was a Canadian team, right?
Yeah, but they're still in that. We share some.
But no, if they're in Canada, they're not part of the U.S. Open Cup. Plus, that far, the Open Cup for 2019, they wouldn't have any of that stuff drawn yet.
Well, so last year in the first round, it was your regional opponent that was at the same division as you. So you can almost guarantee that they last year Kitsap and the Timbers under 23s knew the day that they won their respective levels that they were going to play.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair. I didn't know that. So you learned something.
I don't know. I can't remember who came in second. Oh, Sounders under 23s. Right. So, enjoy that. Yeah, I'm wrong, and they don't get drawn a U.S. Open Cup spot at all. Last but not least, and really dead last, PDXFC finished last in their respective conference. They only scored 1 goal in the first 5 matches, 4 of which were actually in Portland. The slow start came after they had a 7-2 preseason win at the under 20 the Timbers tournament down in Salem, and they started against Kitsap, right? So their first home match was against Kitsap, and this was Kitsap 4 days after they had traveled to Salem and lost 5-0 and had their Trinidad and Tobago international sent off on a direct red card. And I just thought the timing of it, I thought everything was in PDXFC's favor, and they just never got it going this year. They had, I think there was a kind of a 3-match moment where you thought maybe because the season's so short and a few wins really turned the season around at this level.
Oh, yeah.
They transferred in Rio Asai. He came over after the first 5 matches from FCMP because he wasn't getting any time.
I was at one of those hot matches, and I very much remember a delightful Cruyff turn by the goalkeeper from PDXFC that gave me a lot of hope for their potential this year.
Yeah, they have a handful of players. They, in as much as Kitsap had said they're lights out, they're not going to come back. I've had the ownership of PDXFC say they are guaranteeing that they will be in operation for 2019 in the spring. So there's a few players to keep an eye on. I would say keep your eye on Rio Asai. He came in, he made some changes. He's texted me that he is definitely interested in staying with the team. And if the team is to own operations, I think he's one to watch.
Sweet. Excellent. Well, appreciate all that update.
And real quick, I got to say,
as
an independent supporter, I highly recommend going out to a PDX FC game. They're super fun. It's an experience unlike even T2. The proximity to the game. I don't know if you're going to be playing at Concordia again next year, but the games up there are great. The crowd's great. It feels like a local family environment. Obviously, the total attendance is lower, but it's a fantastic experience.
Yeah, and bring a friend.
Bring 3 friends.
Bring 3 friends. Free Voodoo Donuts.
All right, so that's the 4th division. Up next for T2, as I mentioned earlier, we've got an away match to Swope Park Rangers. That's this Saturday, August 11th. And then 5 straight at home. So we'll be taking on San Antonio Wednesday the 15th. Sounders 2 come down Sunday the 19th. And then Orange County on Wednesday the 22nd. That'd be the rest. That's all the games we got for August. So we'll have some time off. St. Louis comes to town Saturday, September 1st. Tulsa comes to town Sunday, September 9th. So hopefully we can get some wins in those home games. I'll be in Kansas City for the Timbers away match, and then I'll also be in a conference right after that. So I'm literally going from Kansas City to Dallas, Texas, the week of the S2 and Orange County games. So I'm sure I will have plenty of free time to record something, but I don't know how much time I'll have to watch them. But hopefully I'll be in a different time zone too. I don't know, but we'll see. Hopefully I can watch them. Some winnable games. I mean, Swope Park Rangers are struggling. It's a very vital 3 points that we need against the team that right now is directly competing against us for playoff. A playoff spot. S2 should be winnable. They're still god-awful garbage team this season, so they have not showered themselves.
Wait, is Seattle still terrible?
Yes. S2, still very bad. Tulsa's, they've improved, but I think it's still winnable when they come to town. St. Louis, that's a team that's fighting for a playoff spot. Could be towards the end. We might be fighting for the last playoff spot with them. Our USL show ELO rankings have it. Portland versus St. Louis right now. Prediction for fighting for that last final playoff spot. So again, a very vital 3 points if we can do well against them. San Antonio and Orange County, when they come to down, those are going to be very good teams on hot streaks that are probably going to be tough to win. So, if we can pick up some of the low-hanging fruit, particularly S2 and hopefully Swope Park Rangers away, I don't know how that's going to work out. Be some vital points we can pick up there. Obviously, it'll be good for the team, good for the playoff hopes. So that would be it for T2 going forward. You can find me online, Twitter. I am at KMcCamish PDX. I am also at PTK Podcast, which you should know if you're listening to the podcast. You can get a hold of me via the people that run the USL Show Twitter at the USL Show. You can even reach out to me via BGN. They can get a hold of me that way. You can also find me on Stumptown Footy. Sometimes I'm behind at Stumptown Footy for tweeting T2 matches, although due to many personal conflicts with work and everything else, I have been unable to do that for almost 2 months. So sorry for anybody missing the Stumptown Footy tweets. We are looking for someone to back me up on T2 coverage.
I missed those tweets.
If you're interested in that, reach out to our managing editor for Stumptown Footy. Other places, I want to stress BGN. We have a new BGN written section. So if you go to bgn.fm and click on our news, we are now creating written content there, of which I am being a part of. So I'll be, editing some of that. Beautiful Game Network, sport of the world, voice of the people. Lots of good content. Please check it out. USL Show, of course, was I'm part of. Rising One is a great podcast. Of course, they cover Phoenix Rising, who kicked the crap out of us. But despite that, go listen to them anyway because they're nice guys. And then thanks to our sponsor, Roughneck Scarves, official scarf supplier of MLS, USL, and US Soccer. Don't forget to get your custom scarves for your group or your team at roughneckscarves.com. And of course, as always, thanks to the Beautiful Game Network, where you can find us, Play the Kids, at playthekids.com or on bgn.fm. Don't forget to subscribe using links to iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. Josh, where can people find you online and also Protagonist Soccer? Tell us about that.
Currently, you can still find me at Joshua R. Duder in the Twitterverse. I will be contributing to Protagonist Soccer. You can check out their website, protagnistsoccer.com. There's not much to look at today. My dog is eager for me to give him some attention.
Yeah. Who's your co-host tonight? Shout your little buddy out.
His name is Gus the dog. Gustavo for those that like full names.
Nice work, Gustavo.
Gustavo, yeah, he likes to chip in. Protagonistsoccer.com will be covering the NPSL and the UPSL starting the week of August 13th. The website goes live. There is a button on the current webpage that you can sign up for updates. You can hit them up on Twitter. Their Twitter handle at Protagonist Soccer is currently interacting with tweets. So I'll be writing for them covering the NPSL Northwest. There is another fellow named Eric. He'll be covering the UPSL, a new league coming to the Northwest starting next year. There are 3 teams currently scheduled to begin in the fall. I'm not quite sure if they will start the fall of 2018 or if they will start in the spring of 2019. They're in Spokane, Centralia, and Seattle. And those are the only 3 teams that I am aware of at the moment. So we will see if there's any movement on that front.
Sweet. Sounds good. And then, John, where can people find you if they wanted to talk to you? Or you can stay muted because you don't want to talk to anybody. That's okay.
No. I hit the mute button like 3 times, I swear. Yeah, I'm John McGuire. I weirdly obsess about referees on a website called ptfcollective.com or ptfcollective if you like that translation. I think you don't want to follow me on Twitter because it's mostly leftist politics at FWJMCG. But I do tweet a little bit about the Portland Timbers and how much I love them and how much I love the referees that we get. I also want to give a quick shout out to Red Smoke Radio. I know this is a competing podcast. Sorry, Kev. But
well, not competing. They're friends. Well, they probably have not mentioned us even once. So I'm happy
would
to
imagine not. Yeah, I have a feeling Caitlin and Tyler don't really pay that much attention to T2. They're mostly WOSO fans, but it is a fantastic women's soccer podcast. I would highly recommend it. It, I believe, is the only current going Thorns podcast, and the more listeners they get, the better it is for everybody, much like Play the Kids. So tell your friends. Actually send them links to the podcast, both Play the Kids and Red Smoke Radio, and keep growing the game.
Yeah. Red Smoke Radio and Play the Kids can both be found on stumptownfooty.com, the only 2 independent podcasts on the website right now. Just so everyone knows that. The only 2 independent podcasts on the website.
Yeah, nobody needs to listen to that Soccer Made in Portland FO garbage anymore.
Is that the other podcast that's out there that's not independent at all?
All they do is recap the news that happened for the week. It's not
and literally write the articles because they have unabated access to.
Hey, listen. Let me say, I'm glad somebody has the access. Let's be very frank about the state of journalism in North American soccer. I am glad that somebody has the access and writes those articles. I just don't need to listen to them talk about the process that went into writing those articles because the articles are fantastic.
Fair enough.
And in a podcast, I'd rather have an independent voice and hear the perspective from the fans and the people who are not paid to talk and think about this game. So that's my perspective on podcasts versus articles. I love the articles.
And, I just wanted to say that, Kevin, I know time is waning. John McGee It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
I don't know if this is a one-off or we're going to have you on again.
Hey, man, I'm glad to come back anytime. I had a great time chatting with you guys.
Fantastic.
Hopefully
I
we'll
really
hear from you again. I think we will. Yeah, so that will be it from myself, Josh, and John. Let's play the kids. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us,
Auf
Kevin.
Wiedersehen.